northern Syria, Russian troops have taken command of a U.S. airbase. And as Charlie D'Agata reports, the Russians did it without firing a shot.
Russian state media showed commandos staging what looked like a military invasion. The Russians are playing up the takeover of the Kobani airfield as a victory. The former U.S. airbase that served as a main logistical hub for America's fight against ISIS, now with the Russian flag flying over it. The Russians moved in just a day after U.S. forces moved out, leaving behind barracks, beds, abandoned medical supplies, and the skeleton of a gym weights removed to render it useless. The same can't be said of the runway, however, an American-made landing strip now under Russian management. The repositioning of U.S. troops mean their footprint has been reduced to patrolling oil fields while partnering with America's Kurdish allies on the ground. Even top Kurdish commander Muslim Kobani lamented that the sudden U.S. retreat left him no choice but to turn to the Russians. We had an understanding with Russia to avoid Turkish attacks in this region, he said. The vacuum Americans left behind, we had to fill with the Russians. An imperfect solution to a desperate situation, giving the Russians the upper hand on the ground.
Allowing Turkey to attack America's Kurdish allies unimpeded and drawing fire from both Republicans and Democrats.
Trump's complete betrayal of our Kurdish allies after his phone call with Turkish President Erdogan. This is so despised on both sides of the aisle that the House voted to condemn Trump's actions 354 to 60. That is the sort of bipartisanship you only see in, like, naming a post office. In fact, Congress just approved the Donald Trump Syria policy sucks forever stamp.
The Kurds stepped up when nobody else would to fight ISIS. If we abandon them, good luck getting anybody to help America in the future. I expect the American president to do what's in our national security interest. And it's never in our national security interest to abandon an ally who's helped us fight ISIS.
What a disaster. I mean, the president's statement through Stephanie Grisham is, you know, we defeated the caliphate. The caliphate's destroyed. We would not have done that without the Kurds who did all of our fighting. Now we're saying, OK, Turks, go wipe them out or force them out. What kind of message is that to the next ally that wants to side with us? A disastrous series of events. I hope the president will rethink this.
We will be focused on the big picture, knowing we can always go back and blast, as I have stated strongly before. And just to reiterate, if Turkey does anything that I, in my great and unmatched wisdom, consider to be off limits, I will totally destroy and obliterate the economy of Turkey. I've done before.
And are you concerned that Erdogan will try to wipe out the Kurds?
I will wipe out his economy if that happens. I've already done it once. And as somebody wrote in a very, very powerful article today, they didn't help us in the Second World War. They didn't help us with Normandy, as an example. They mentioned names of different battles. They were there, but they're there to help us with their land.
As Turkey deployed more armor to its southern border, the 5-day ceasefire the U.S. brokered to stop Turkey's assault on the Kurds of Syria seems increasingly fragile.
President Trump says he saved millions of lives with his agreement. Do you agree with that?
This agreement will lead to the killing of millions of Kurds and the expulsion of millions of Kurds from their land, he said. It will be the biggest ethnic cleansing operation in the 21st century, and it's happening right in front of the American Army's eyes. Hundreds of U.S. troops who fought with these same Kurds against ISIS are still in Syria. But President Trump ordered them to pack and leave and not intervene. Many of the troops feel they're abandoning their allies when they need protection the most. Around 250,000 have been forced to flee their homes by Turkish forces and radical Islamic militias they control.
The U.S. military and the U.S. government is watching what is happening now. Do you think they bear some responsibility for what is happening to the Kurdish people?
America
America has full responsibility for what is happening now because we trusted them for 5 years in the continuing war against ISIS, he said. But now there is ethnic cleansing. If they wanted, they would stop it.
The situation on the Turkish border with Syria to be for the United States strategically brilliant. Our soldiers are out of there. Our soldiers are totally safe. They've got to work it out. Maybe they can do it without fighting. Serious. But we've had tremendous success, I think, over the last couple of days. A little bit unconventional, a little bit of hard love. I told you that. There was a lot of pain for a couple of days. And sometimes you have to go through some pain before you can get a good solution. But the Kurds are very happy about it.
Tens of thousands of civilians are fleeing as Turkey escalates its invasion into Syria, targeting U.S. allies, the Kurds. Smashing towns and villages on the border with airstrikes, artillery, and ground forces. The injured rush to hospitals, families scrambling to get out, carrying whatever they can. The Kurds blame President Trump, who essentially gave the green light for the Turkish attack by ordering U.S. troops out of the way. The assault is facing worldwide condemnation, in part because it's not just an offensive, it's a settlement campaign. Turkey is sending in Arab militias that would displace the Kurds from their homes permanently.
We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about, the oil that everybody was worried about. The U.S. has control of that.
That getting out of the endless wars in the Middle East is not a bad thing. I understand that part. But the way Trump did this, make no mistake, who wins here? His buddy Vladimir Putin, who yesterday met with Erdogan to carve up Syria like a Christmas shawarma. So, naturally this morning, Trump gave a self-congratulatory speech from the White House.
Today's announcement validates our course of action with Turkey that only a couple of weeks ago was scorned. And now people are saying, wow, what a great outcome. Let someone else fight over this long, blood-stained sand. But we've done a good job. We've saved a lot of lives. The American delegation negotiated the original 5-day ceasefire that ended Kurdish fighters to safely leave. It just got them to a point where, frankly, they were able, it enabled them to get out, to go, and move really just a few miles in a slightly different direction. ISIS is under very, very strict lock and key, and the detention facilities are being strongly maintained. There were a few that got out. The government of Turkey informed my administration that they would be stopping combat and their offensive in Syria and making the ceasefire permanent, and it will indeed be permanent. However, you would also define the word permanent in that part of the world as somewhat questionable. I've therefore instructed the Secretary of the Treasury to lift all sanctions imposed on October 14th. So the sanctions will be lifted unless something happens that we're not happy with. This was an outcome created by us, the United States, and nobody else, no other nation. Very simple. But we are leaving soldiers to secure the oil. And we may have to fight for the oil. We should be able to take some also. And what I intend to do, perhaps, is make a deal with an ExxonMobil or one of our great companies to go in there and do it properly.